What is up, friends? Courtney Atkinson here with my great friend Ryan Weary. Today, we're going to be talking to you about a super hot topic, getting buyers and sellers off the fence. Now, listen, we already know what you're dealing with out there. Why? Because we're dealing with the same thing here in Southern Alberta. Ryan and I support a team in Southern Alberta, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, and Calgary. And Ryan, you've already sold what, like 20 some houses this year, am I right?
Yes, it's been a good start to the year for me. And for whatever reason, i.e. low inventory, I have had to have, I would say, more tough conversations with buyers and sellers, even in the first quarter here in 2024 than probably, I would say, all of last year combined. Now, what that's telling me is those scripts or those conversations that I'm having or those pain points that I'm speaking to, agents need to know the framework of these conversations. A lot of times these conversations will be the tipping point for either people to move forward with something or just stay where they're at, whether they're buyers and they're renting and they continue to rent, they renew a lease and you don't get any deal out of that, or sellers, more importantly, I would think right now more than ever, they're hesitant for certain reasons. Like, well, if we list our place, we could be homeless, right? And I think it's very important right now, especially heading into the busy season of the year, is for agents either to get reminded of these things, these conversations, the frameworks that they can utilize moving forward and hopefully get those people off the fence into the market.
Yeah, it's so true. When markets change like this one has over, say, the last year, or whatever it's been, it's easy to get out of habit, right? Because if you look back and ask yourself what was going on during COVID, I mean, monkeys were listing homes for sale, full commission. They were selling, it was kind of a cake time. A lot of people get into the business, and a lot of us that were in the business left our good habits behind. And so, this is a bit of a refresher. I know that many of you have adjusted well. Some of you haven't, and maybe that's why you're here today. We do want to spend some time talking about best practices. And I'll give you a personal example, okay? So, of course, we coach teams from across North America, agents from across North America, and we support, hundreds of people through the courses that we're running all of the time. And we're hearing stories of successful agents that have done loads of business in the past, but they're struggling this year. Okay. And it doesn't make sense because when we look at their market and see the kind of volume that's going on around them, the market's decent. There's transactions happening, but they're just not getting their share of them. And so that tells us something, right? That tells us that they haven't yet made these adjustments, these best practices, or gotten back to the habits that were working to them pre-COVID when things were kind of easy. And so we just want this to be a bit of a story for you. If you're finding that you're not, having tremendous growth in the market right now, as things are starting to take off for others and you're kind of looking around feeling like maybe you're being left behind, that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll start off with one of the most foundational pieces that I have to remind myself all the time, whether I'm working with a new seller or a repeat client. And if you guys wanted to write this down, it's that the consumers that we deal with, we don't know how much they know about the process. And a lot of times, admittedly, they know a lot less about the process than we think. So my whole point here is like, are we speaking to our audience in a way that they can, number one, understand, and number two, they can apply it to their own life? Because a lot of folks, when you ask them about the real estate industry, they're going to regurgitate some type of, global news thing that they read or some national news thing that they read about average sale prices. And I can tell you guys right now that I have no idea what an average sale price really means. When someone asks me how the market is, I would say, well, what price range are you talking about? Because I know for in my market, if you're north of 650, that market sucks right now. It's terrible. I would say it's depreciating. If you talk about a property between 250 and 450, those are going like hotcakes right now. So be very, very careful about just kind of blanketed averages or blanketed statistics or news articles from not really central in your community, if that makes sense.
Yeah, super critical. So much of what we always talk about, right, Ryan, comes down to psychology and protection of mindset. And it's one of the things that Ryan's suggesting here right now. We don't know where your client has been. We don't know what they've been listening to. We don't know who they've been talking to, where they're getting their information from. And I think too often what agents want to do is just convey the same story or kind of go out and say the same thing that they've always said, not recognizing that these people who are on the fence, they're on the fence for a reason. They're on the fence because they feel it's safer, right?
Mhm.
And so then the question we got to be asking ourselves, why are they feeling unsafe? Like, what is it that they're learning, hearing, feeling that has them sitting this out, right? Because we know something's true here. This is foundational for real estate sales. We know that people move because they're having babies, the babies are moving out of their house, because they're getting married, they're getting divorced, they got a job, they got a raise, they lost a job, they got a demotion, somebody's born, somebody's passed away. Like these are the big things in people's lives that trigger sales, and they don't care what happens with interest rates. Those things are still happening. They don't care what happens with inventory. Those things are still happening. But something else is going on for the consumer based on their news, based on their social feed, based on their work environment, based on something that somebody has said or things that many people have said that has them sitting this out. Okay. So we want to be mindful of like, what's that story that this person is hearing, and how do I get to address that in a meaningful way that creates this journey where they do feel safe? Not only the journey being safe, but also just the conversation itself without a bunch of defense mechanisms being safe. So we need to understand that. But hang on, we haven't even gotten to the most important part yet. The most important part is, how are you feeling? You, the real estate agent, what's your mindset like? How are you feeling about this market? What are your concerns? What are your anxieties? You think that those things aren't showing up in your body language? Like you think that those things aren't showing up in your energy, in the way that you're picking up the phone and saying hello? Like by the time that first word is out of your mouth, you've communicated more than you would believe.
Mhm.
Just about your energy, your mindset, how you're feeling about things. So I want to talk a little bit about that. That's always something that's near and dear to my heart, because I know that my ability to affect great energy has dramatically improved my life and my net worth and my influence, Ryan. And I know it has for you too. So I'd like to start there. What about you, Ryan? Where do you
I,
feel kind of like ground zero is in terms of wanting to get going from your standpoint?
I think that's a good place to start because as many of the bright and shiny objects that are out there for agents to either buy or sign up to, or new AI features that they can incorporate into their business, at the very root of this industry, it is a human relationship industry. It's a human relationship business, and if we can't take care of ourselves and show up inspired to inspire other people, then you're not going to have a chance anyways. So I would love to hear your journey, Courtney. If you can give us the cliff notes of maybe your practice, I can chime in when needed. I know mine's not as robust as yours, but I think it's a huge component. I really do.
Yeah.
And for those of you that maybe might not buy into self-development, I would encourage you to do so because it can change your life.
Yeah, I'm just going to say real quick, friends, that there's the doing and there's the being while you're doing. And too often we want the widget, we want the thing, we want the AI tech, we want the app, who do I call? What do I got to do? What do I got to pay to fix this problem? When really we've got to look within, okay? The truth is that you're going to manifest how you're being, not what you're doing, okay? And that's a really hard concept for people. And I know that when I heard that for many years, I thought it was horse shit, and I just wanted to get out there and buy the thing that was going to fix it, okay? The most significant investment, my friend, that you're going to make is the one in your own personal journey, just in your mindset. And you have no idea the energy, the things that will change for you once you've addressed this. And so I don't need to get into a whole, long drawn out Tony Robbins story trying to get you, to adopt some crazy morning routine like I have. But I just want you to know this, okay? If you're bringing energy that you well know is in the 6 to 7 out of 10 range right now in your business, that's the reason. Okay. That's the reason. Like, if you're not achieving the success that you want in your business, and you also know that you're bringing a 6 or a 7 energy to the table, that's why. Like, just hang up now, go read some books and go solve that problem. You don't need to hear it from me. That's just the truth. Okay. It's free. Like, get to work. Start working on how you're feeling, right? Start working on your being. Okay. Because that's what shows up for people. That energy, your influence, okay, is everything. Like, here's the thing, you can influence someone to get off the fence. You know how you do it? Safety. You know how you do that? Great energy. Why? Because they believe you and they can see it in you. Okay. I'm influencing you right now to believe the story that I'm telling you. And you know that it's true, right? So if you're at a 6 or a 7, what's holding you back? Ask yourself that question next, because there's a reason that maybe you haven't done this and you know that it's true. Well, it's hard and I'm not sure that it's going to work. You're right. Okay. It is hard. I promise you that it works. I promise you that it's the number one lever. Do you want to know how I know that? I know that because I went from being broke 8 years ago to having a net worth that's a lot more than that, let's just say now. Okay. Where I don't have to work. I feel great just doing my thing, traveling 100 and some odd days a year and hanging out with Ryan and my wife and doing really cool shit. Like it's a totally different life. And you know what the number one lever that I pulled? Yeah, just me, how I was showing up, how I was being, my energy, okay, my influence. So I want you to start there, okay? I don't need to go deep on that today, Ryan. I just
Mhm.
wanted to say that because I feel like it gets overlooked. You know, so many coaches want to, sell a widget, sell a program, sell a thing, right? I'm like, listen, you might need some things and we can give you the things, no question, but I want you to start with you. And here's the beauty of this, guys. When you do this work, do you know who wins? Literally every person in your life, starting with you, but literally every person in your life. If you have kids, they're winning. If you have a wife or a husband, they're winning. Friends and family, they're winning. They're just getting a better version of you. Oh, and also, yeah, you're making shit tons more money. That doesn't hurt. Like, I don't mind closing more deals. Like, I don't mind it when I walk into a listing appointment. I already know that I got it. They think that I got it. And I walk out with paperwork. And that maybe wasn't the experience that I was having before. Or when I was waking up in the morning, kind of dreading my job. And now I've got fire in my step. Like, just that change in my energy and my enthusiasm, that's worth the price of admission right there. Right. To say nothing of the experience that you're creating for every single person that you engage with. So do it for that reason.
Mhm.
So that's just a quick pitch on looking after your damn health and your damn mindset. Okay. You got anything else to add to that, Ryan?
I love that. The only thing I would add to that is a lot of times when people talk about whether it's self-development or wanting to make a change, it gets overwhelming because there's so much information out there and they feel like they need to be doing a bunch more things. And I like going the other way. I like to think about like, hey, what am I doing willingly that I know just isn't good for me? Well, what if I just don't do that? So don't think of like getting better within your business or within your personal life as needing to do more and stacking more. I like to think about, hey, what can I cut out? Right? Maybe
Mhm.
that's a substance. Maybe that's a food that I crave. Maybe that's, some habits that I have before I go
Could
to
be a
bed or when
person,
I wake
right?
up. Yeah. So I like shelling down and basically trimming down of the things that don't serve me anymore. So don't think of it as something that you need to stack on. The easiest way that I think it's at least a good starting point to kind of get the ignite the fire is to think about what can I give up, right? So
I think that's a natural transition through this process, Ryan, and a very logical way for us to proceed. So I like that as a second step. What is it that you're doing in your life right now that's not serving this future version of you that has you winning in the ways that you want to win? And Ryan, I know with your one-on-one coaching, you talk about that so much, right? Like, what's the conversation like with this future version of yourself, right? What expectations does that person have? What habits does that person have? What kind of conversations is that person having? Who are they having them with, right? And like visualizing that version of yourself having the success that you want from your future, and then slowly but surely moving in that direction, but also letting go of those things that don't correlate, that don't connect, right?
Love that. And that's exactly, I was having a conversation with a client this morning. And I was definitely giving him some of the bright and shiny objects, but I left him with this. I said, everything that you need is already inside of you. It's how you're showing up to your clients to inspire them to do the things that they know they should be doing, but they just need a gentle nudge by you in order to have approval within themselves to do that. Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to go about that, but it has to start with us. And I think that's a great way to start this webinar off. And admittedly, that wasn't the direction I thought this was going to go, but it's so important. So
Yeah.
important.
One more little thing to add to that before we get to the doing, because I know you all got your notepads out and you want to know like what's the strategy where I'm going to make more money, guys. I'm not ready to, work on my mindset, my energy just yet. I want to do a thing. We're getting there. Okay. But the next piece of this organically is just remembering that when you're adding stuff, I think we can all agree that we're already busy. Like, I don't know anybody that's sitting around thinking, man, I got so much time, I don't know what to do with it. Like, we're all limited in our time, or at very least, we're limited with the energy that we have for the time that we have, right? And so I want you to think about this next. When I'm adding something, strategically let go of something else. Okay. If you're adding some new thing and you're not prepared to increase your energy or the time commitment to whatever that goal is, and most people aren't, then let go of something else that's occupying time or energy, resources. And that'll free you up so that you're not like binding yourself up with all this additional stress as you move down the line to accomplish more. You're doing 10 deals now and you want to do 15. Hey, listen, we're not talking about adding 50% more effort and energy and time to your schedule. We're talking about reallocating our resources in a different way and deallocating resources from something over here that's not serving that end. We're not talking about adding more time, more energy, more stress. Not at all. If anything, the things that we're going to be sharing with you ought to be freeing you up from time. Guy like Ryan doing, well, Ryan, you'll settle out this year as you always do, 70 to 80 a year, part-time, golfing a shit ton, taking 2 months off. Like nobody believes that, but it's the truth.
Mhm.
And and you're not going to be more stressed than you ever have been around that, right?
No, and I made it my stance this year to be aware of like how many more things can I be giving up without compromising the client experience, without compromising my value proposition. And when you proactively think of the things that you do throughout the day that you think is adding to the client experience, a lot of the stuff is not. So I want to think of myself as like a marathon runner that's thin, lean, and mean. And I'm talking about my business, not me. I want my business to be absolutely lean and mean and just very, very efficient and have my conversion through the roof in order for me to get to the same number of transactions and decrease time that it took to get there. And that has
Mhm.
nothing to do with value proposition of my clients. My clients all feel really well taken care of because I know what they need from me. I know what convenience looks like to them. And anything that I'm doing outside of that, I'm just not going to do anymore. And boom, now all of a sudden I get a bunch of white space in my calendar, can spend time playing golf this summer. I have no anxiety about taking time off this year at all. And also, my family gets that benefit as well. I'm home a ton more. One of the
Yeah.
things being a dad this year now, it's made me realize like, hey, do I really need to go into the office this year that much? Like, yeah, I want to be around my colleagues. I want to have that water cooler talk, but I can't tell you the number of hours per week that I'm saving just from getting my work done at home and be like, okay, let me go hang out with my son now. Let me go for a walk with my family, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't go to the office, but when you actually look at the things that produce either results or into that value proposition to your clients, just going to the office is just busy work, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting too that these conversations and some of this advice will depend on where you are in your career. So for
Mhm.
example, if you're struggling to get to your 10th deal, okay, and you have an office to go to, and you're finding that your days are kind of filled with random activity and you're napping and playing video games, whatever, like you're probably going to need some additional focus. And you're probably going to need to spend some more time at the office, just absorbing the opportunities that are going to be available to you when that happens consistently. So Ryan's advice is based on a guy with 10 out of 10 disciplines, some of the best that I've ever seen, and already incredibly successful. He's asking himself questions like, how can I do this business this year without ever logging into my CRM?
Mhm.
It's a fair question, right? Like that's not a question that somebody in their first year of real estate about to get their sixth deal under contract should be asking themselves. The question that that person should be asking themselves is, how can I log an extra hour today in my CRM? Just different. Depends on where you're at. And so let's just be mindful, friends, that the advice that we're giving here is primarily going to be for that agent that has a lot more to accomplish and isn't so much trying to salvage time as they are trying to increase business. Okay. So we're
Mhm.
looking at this particular session, this webinar, as an opportunity to give you more business, recognizing that, yeah, there's some efficiencies and some more time that probably could be added as well. Not trying to take you to 100 hours a week, but if you're not already working 40, 50 wouldn't kill you. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to increase conversion, right? You can have all the appointments jacked up, but if you're not converting, then what are we doing? Right. So, I think the, I would like to hear your thoughts, Courtney, on this situation, because this is something that I know I've been faced with. And a lot of agents out there, regardless of what market they're in, if you're in Alberta, West Coast, East Coast, in the States, it's the same thing. But if we're getting, say, for example, we're calling some buyer leads, a lot of times the best buyer leads are actually seller leads. They have places to sell.
Yeah.
And they're worried about selling their place and being homeless. They just got online, they're looking at a house that they really like, but they're worried about the whole thing with interest rates and selling their property really fast and not having anything to replace it with. Could
Yeah.
you maybe give us the framework on how to make that client or that lead feel good to move ahead with me, whether it's a market evaluation, et cetera?
Sure. And I want to do one step better than that. And I will answer the question, Ryan, for sure. But I think part of the duty of being an educator and a coach is to help our listeners and our viewers plan for these types of situations themselves. So I do have the answer. I am going to give it to you, but I would rather teach you how to fish so you don't need to keep coming back to these webinars and you can solve these problems on your own. And here's the formula, okay? You're going to start to see patterns in conversations. Okay. So you got to look for those. All right. Now, if you're here, there's a really good chance that you're seeing patterns. And the pattern that you're seeing is that your buyers and sellers are on the fence. Okay. So that's step one, pattern. Okay. Step two is ask yourself what is consistent with this pattern and these people. Okay. And if you don't have clarity on that, then you ought to be asking questions of these people until you do have clarity. Okay. Now, what you're going to start to realize is that most people are the same. They're getting their information from the same thing, same places, same worries, same fears. Like that's important. We want to understand like what that's about. Where does that come from? Now, the third thing I think is the most challenging piece. It's how do I not get sucked into that and then objectively go out and try to find some solutions that are going to serve that person's desire to make a move? Because listen, friends, they do want to make a move. They feel like these are shark infested waters and you're meant to protect them. But if you're also feeling like these are shark infested waters, you're not going to be very good at protecting anyone, never mind yourself. You're certainly not going to be a good guide for this person. Okay. So, thing three is, I think, recognizing that there are solutions that you, as the guide through these shark infested waters, has to level up above that and understand the marketplace and understand the path through it. Okay. Some of that is most definitely going to be related to your mindset, no question. But I'm going to assume that it's already been looked after because we've already talked about that. Okay. So I'm assuming at this stage, your mindset is already unlocked. Now you're looking at it and you're saying objectively, okay, cool. There has to be a way through this. All I need is transactions and I'm good anyways. And this person wants to move, but they're scared. They feel like these are shark infested waters. What are some things that they need to know that would help them through this? What mechanisms do I have available to me to create some safety in these shark infested waters? Well, maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's information. Maybe it's a strategy, right? But here's the thing, friends, I can promise you this, that it's typically not money related. It's typically related to your ability to communicate the roadmap forward, okay? Sometimes that's related to understanding the market and being able to think of things on your feet, but none of this came to me on the fly. It came to me after I identified the patterns, started asking myself where these patterns were coming from, and then sat back and said to myself, I ain't getting paid unless I can create transactions. How do I get these people into action? By creating safety. How do I create safety? It's by problem solving. Well, let's spend some time problem solving. So that third thing is time consuming. It involves masterminding. It involves doing what you're doing right here, showing up and hearing other people's take on how you can help create safety at a time like this for people. Then it's going to be the fourth thing, practicing your scripts. I should say creating and practicing your scripts. Okay. And you're going to get better at communicating this roadmap through for people the more you practice it. My recommendation, by the way, on step four, and we're going to go back through these things, and I am going to answer Ryan's question, I promise you. But the thing that I want you to remember is that we all have one of these in our pockets. And you know what that is? That's a more advanced recording device that existed on this entire planet 20 years ago. Okay. Right? Like the National, which was a great news program that I watched growing up, wasn't filmed on something as fancy as this. Okay. And it was broadcast all across North America. All right. Get this thing out, record yourself going through your script, addressing the concerns that people have with these shark infested waters, asking yourself, number five, by the way, what are the objections? What are the concerns? What's the feedback? The things that people are going to say in this, and talking those through as well. And then watch it. Ooh, that sucks. That's not believable. Man, I wish I could do better than that. Oof. I can't believe I stumbled over that. That makes me sound like such an idiot. Like all those ugly things, friends. It's going to be horrible at first. But I would much rather get uncomfortable in front of this piece of technology in the privacy of my own home than embarrass myself in somebody's house with bad information or a bad script or a bad story. Or worse yet, not even get the at bat because I wasn't prepared. And so you've already come here, like you've sacrificed an hour out of your day to watch this webinar. And I've just given you the strategy that you can use, a 5-point strategy to be able to navigate your way through anything like this. Now, this particular time, yeah, buyers and sellers are on the fence, seems to be because interest rates. I really should turn that timer off. Um, and so think about that. Like, how can I apply this 5-step strategy to any challenge that comes up in the marketplace? Because guaranteed there's going to be something else. Like, there's never a time where there's no problems. Okay. Do you know who's winning when there's problems, when there's blood in the water? People that do this. They're using this 5-point strategy. They're seeing the pattern. They're looking for the source of it. They're identifying and doing research to come up with solutions. They're getting their script in place. They're managing objections, and they're getting people off the fence into action. That's what we're doing, and that's what we're here to tell you. So how to do that right now with interest rates? Well, I would ask the question, Ryan, and maybe you and I can just role play this a little bit. So Ryan, what do you think some of the challenges going on in the marketplace are? What's the most common thing that you're hearing from buyers right now that want to stay on the fence? What's that all about?
Buyers, the main objection I'm hearing is that interest rates are high and they are going to wait.
Right. Okay, awesome. So now the question that I'm asking myself as an objective observer after I've gotten off this phone call or come out of this meeting is it beneficial for Ryan to wait? Well, at the beginning, the truth is that I don't know. Okay. At the beginning, the truth is that I don't know. I'm just seeing a pattern. And the pattern is I'm hearing people say that they wait. I have to call attention to that. It's a pattern. Is it true? I don't know. But here's what I want to know next. Where are they getting that information from? Why do they consistently seem to think that waiting is the best response? So Ryan, let me ask you that question. What do you think is the reason that people think waiting is the best choice right now?
I would say because there's a lot of noise around that interest rates will be dropping, whether that is or isn't true, but that's the narrative, is that they've peaked, so they perceive them waiting means that they're gonna have cheaper payments.
Right. And so if a person naturally thinks that the interest rate is the problem, then they wait for the what to change? The problem to change. But here's us looking at that saying, I think there's a better solution, and I don't have to wait for this to do anything. If I can just create a better roadmap for this person to do what? The thing that they want to do. When? Yeah, right now. If I can find another path through these shark infested waters, they're going to take action. So now I got to take a step back. Okay. I've seen the pattern. Number one. Two, I've asked the question, where is it coming from? Three, I'm doing some research. Okay. So you're here to do the research. So Ryan, we might as well do this live. Okay.
Okay.
Because this would be exactly what we would do if we were challenged by something and hadn't already found the path through it just yet. So Ryan, do you think it's true that interest rates are that bad right now?
Yeah, they've just been higher than they have been in a really long time. So yeah, it kind of scares me when it's, 6% or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. And so guys, by the way, just to give you a kind of a sense of what Ryan and I are doing right now, this would be like colleague to colleague masterminding. I'm calling my friend, a realtor in Toronto. I might be talking to my wife right now, having this conversation. Like, doesn't matter. I might do this alone, but here's the thing that works. Yeah, interest rates are high and it worries me. Guys, like I just renewed a mortgage like last week on one of my rentals. It was like 198 or something, and I don't know what the hell. It was like five, somewhere in that range. Like it was shocking. Okay.
Mhm.
Right. And so yeah, I listen, I know interest rates are high and I don't love it either. So for sure, Ryan's gonna say that. So now let's ask this next question, Ryan. So you and I are colleagues. We're asking a question about this bar. My client Jim, he's had this thing happen in his life and they gotta sell. but he's talking about waiting until next year when interest rates are better. Is that necessarily the best choice?
I would say no, but to your point, we don't know if it's the best choice for him yet.
We,
You
we
have him
don't
asking
know.
the good
Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to ask the client great open-ended questions. What's his motivation? What's his inspiration? What are his fears? What are his worries, right? Most people, it's an emotional choice, okay? So guys, the thing that I want you to think about is this. Unless I have a deep understanding, right, of what my client's needs are, like true needs, wants and needs, I can't begin to provide them with solutions. I know not whether it is a good time or a bad time unless I know in great detail what it is that's driving this particular move. So you got to ask those questions. That should go without saying. Okay. Now, next thing, what's going to happen with prices, Ryan, when interest rates go down?
Well, I can speak to this with certainty in my market. They are going to continue to rise.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, great. So let's take a $300,000 property at, I don't know, 5% interest, okay? And then let's look at a, $340,000 property at a 3% interest rate. What's my payment difference in general terms?
Probably not a lot.
Probably not a lot, okay? So here's the interesting thing, friends. If I've got the desire to make a move right now, and it's probably going to be a wash on a monthly payment basis, and you can show that to me mathematically, like, am I going to be even just a little bit more inspired to get off the fence and take action? Yeah, for sure. Now, next part of the equation that Ryan talked about was like, well, what about the fact that I might not have a house to move into? Let's not get so far down the road just yet. Okay, let's not worry about that. I want to create a little bit of excitement with my seller because I know the seller is also a buyer. Okay. I want to get them excited about the fact that we're going to be able to capitalize on their listing right now. Okay. And so I might use a script that would sound something like this. Obviously I've been through steps 4 and 5, right? And starting with 3. And so I know I'm bouncing around a lot, Ryan, but what I'll do now, I'll ask you to be the buyer.
Okay.
Sorry, seller buyer, whatever.
Okay.
Okay. So Ryan, super stoked to be a part of this journey. I mean, I know that you're still kind of on the fence thinking about things, but truth is that it's going to be happening at some point, right? And that's just really exciting. So Ryan, let me ask you, like, I know that you're waiting for interest rates and you've got some concerns around all that for sure, but tell me a little bit more about why this move's important to you and your family.
I just think we need more size, more bedrooms. We're just kind of busting at the seams in our current place right now. So it
Mm-hmm.
would be more of a convenience move right now for sure.
Yeah. And does that situation change? Does it improve? Does it get worse over time? Like, let's say next year, is that better, worse, or the
Uh,
same?
I would say it's not going to get any better. I mean, I would say worse as we go here, as everyone starts to grow up and yeah. So
But probably not horrible. Am I right?
no, no, it would be totally fine. This is more or less like, the next house we going to be getting into is going to be our forever place. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. Okay, cool. And Ryan, remind me again, where's your equity position in the property, just more or less? Do you have a sense of what you own in the house?
yeah, we would be, we owe about 200 grand right now. So, we sell for 320, 350, somewhere in there, we'd be sitting okay.
Okay, sounds good. And one of the things that we know for sure is going to happen, interest rates are going to come down, prices are going to go up. We don't know by how much. But the good news is that next year you're going to have more equity in your property. The bad side is that the property that you want to buy next year is going to be more expensive, right?
Mm,
So we kind of run into this situation where, even though interest rates might be lower, Ryan, prices are higher. And so chances are the monthly payment's going to be about the same, right? You'll have
mhm.
more equity, but more equity goes towards a more expensive property, the same property that you could have bought this year. And so, Ryan, if I could show you a way that we could get you into the property that you want to get into, sooner, I'm not saying immediately, but say sooner, where it does eliminate this risk of stress over the next year for more or less what it's going to cost you to do it next year anyways. And at least this way you get to enjoy the property for next year. Would that be a conversation that we should be having?
For sure it would. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
make sense.
So guys, listen, don't try to sell the whole thing at once. Okay. Do you see what I did there? Like, I just got him committed to a conversation.
Mhm.
Okay. I want you to think about this, friends. I think too often agents are like, I need to convince this person to sign paperwork today. And I'm like, you know what you need to convince this person to do? To trust you.
Mhm.
Like, I think we can both agree, Ryan, that you and I conduct ourselves in a way and control the process in such a way that people have the opportunity to come to trust us because we're not rushing them through it, right? We're bringing them through the journey of self-discovery at a pace where it can sink in, right? Like I'm not asking them to sell their house. I'm asking him if I can show you a way, would it be worth a conversation? Who says no to that?
Yeah. You're framing in a way where it's an auto yes, right?
Yeah. And sometimes people will give you this objection. Well, you know what, Courtney, I just don't think that we're ready. And I'm here, I'm going to suck the pressure right out of that. So yeah, do you know what, Ryan? Totally get that. I understand. Tell me more about why that is. You know, I understand, that you're not stressed about this move, but you've got a little bit of anxiety that'll pile up. So help me understand what's why we wouldn't have just the conversation at this point. Like, guys, here's the thing. Too often people are scared, especially as Canadians. So, I see a bunch of you out there. I don't know how many you're Canadian or not, but like we're super polite and we think that staying out of people's faces and not asking them hard questions is actually the right thing to do. You're doing a terrible disservice by doing that. Okay. This is where being Canadian sucks. Okay. This person has a challenge, a problem, a whole set of rationale that they put around it. And you're leaning back instead of leaning in where you can actually solve the problem. Don't be that friend. Be the friend that actually gets good information and actually finds the roadmap forward. Ask them what's up with that. And don't
Mhm.
frame it like in some rude fashion. Just say, hey, would you help me understand that? Can you tell me more about that? I don't quite get this. Would you mind sharing some more? Like, those are the questions you want to ask. And here's what you'll start to find, friends, is they can't explain it to you. Like, we've just asked them to explain to us why wait, and then they can't. And do you know what that tells us? And them simultaneously through the journey of self-discovery that I've just created with great open-ended questions. It helps them see that they've got unjustified anxiety. And we just deflated that balloon by helping them through that journey of self-discovery, by sticking into it and asking them a harder question. See what we did there? Like, what a beautiful thing for a friend to do, right? Lean in and ask a harder question. Then all of a sudden, what they start to realize is that, holy shit, you know what? I've just got all this emotion around this thing. I'm scared and I don't even know why. And next thing I know, I got this facilitator. His name's Ryan Weary asking me these questions. And he's freeing me of this anxiety, this fear, this worry that I have now. And look, I can start to see myself maybe making a move not next year, all because of one question. Like, be that friend, ask the slightly harder question, dive in, dig deeper.
Mhm.
Okay.
And as you ask those questions, not only is their anxiety going to drop, but as anxiety drops, the whole landscape becomes a lot more simple to them, right? And when things are simple to people, it makes it easy for them to move through the journey. It's just like, why do you think, all-inclusive resorts are a thing? Well, it's simple, right?
Right?
And you perceive it when you're on vacation, you think it's free, it's not, but you forgot about everything, and they make it so easy for you to relax.
Yeah.
And by asking good questions, it's going to help solve their issues internally. And then they'll be like, well, yeah, that actually does me. I didn't think of it that way, Courtney. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Right. And it's stacking up these small little wins and these frameworks for these conversations. So then you can tell your clients, hey, listen, we just helped the folks just through this exact same situation. And this is what ended up happening. I'm using my own example right now, Courtney. Me and my wife, we just sold
Right.
in probably the hottest price range in my market right now, and we actually upsized. Okay. Now the narrative to that is like, holy smokes, high interest rate. You're getting a more of a mortgage. Like I'm pretty sure my dad almost passed out when I told him, but I said, Dad, like think about it. The highest price range right now in my market is actually depreciating. We own an asset that is appreciating. Long term, we're going to win. We're going to date the rate for 2 years, lock it in fixed. Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable. Way we go. 2 years, interest rates are going to come down. We're going to get locked out. And I don't have to worry about the issues that we're having with our kid trying to sleep. And it's right next to the garage and the kitchen. And it's a hassle, right? So it's like we
Dude,
can
you're
use
making me
our
want to sell my house right now. This fires me up so much.
Yeah, and using those stories or creating stories of things that you can share with people is really really powerful. And another framework that I love that I've been incorporating with buyers specifically right now, and this is further on down the road. Say for example, I had this situation last night where my buyers finally found a house. They wrote an offer on that house. And we felt, and I agreed with them, that it was slightly overpriced. I would say about 5% overpriced. And we're negotiating today. And I sent them a message this morning and I told them that, like, hey, listen, like, yes, we will be slightly overpaying for this house. That's totally up to your guys' decision. But we also have to look at the alternative solution here, the alternative scenario, which is now we've depleted everything on the market. If we continue to look, we're going to be looking at new listings. What does that mean? We have to go day one or day two, especially entering into the hottest part of the season. How do you guys feel about needing to go to a property right away and making a decision on the spot?
Hmm.
And they're
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, let's do the deal.
And like potentially being in competition and then paying like 7, 8, 9% more, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, friends, these are all the things that we want you to be thinking about. You know, when we're teaching you to fish, it's not just about giving you the solution that works. It's about thinking about this constructively. Like, how do I create wins for my buyers and sellers, right? How do I help them through these shark infested waters by just thinking constructively about what's happening in the marketplace? And if you know, like Ryan said, that this upper price point is depreciating and there's lots of action happening and competition in this price point, like, isn't that a story that you think that you could tell to people? Because most people are doing the same thing, right? Rather than waiting till next year when everything's on fire and prices are appreciating across the board because now interest rates are low and everybody's into action. Like, wouldn't this be a better time?
Mhm.
So remember that script, friend. What if I could show you a way that would make sense to do it this year? Would that be a conversation worth having? It's just a conversation. Of course, it would be worth having. Okay. I didn't say where it was. I didn't say it would be at your house. We're not there yet. Okay. No, it's going to be, and it's going to be soon, but we haven't gotten there yet. I didn't frame that. And see, too often, guys, what agents are doing is they're overcomplicating things. Okay. Like, really, we're just adding way too much to people's plates. They've already got overwhelmed. Okay. So I'm not trying to load them up with too much information. You'll notice that what I said before in my earlier script was like very generic, super high level, okay? Which was, hey, if interest rates come down, prices go up, and so will the payment, and it's probably going to be more or less the same. Like, what's the math there? I don't give a shit. But conceptually, it makes sense, right? And all I need is them to have a concept sufficient enough to agree to the conversation. That's it. Like, if I can just create a scenario simple enough for them to understand where they'll agree to have the chat with me, hey, listen, the data matters less and less. This is an emotional journey, friends. Very seldomly is it entirely data driven. Sometimes it is. I'm not saying it's not, but if you understand the fact that this is generally an emotional journey and you connect to the emotion and then create these micro opportunities to move slightly further down the road, increase trust with the person that you're working with, increase rapport, right? Increase excitement, increase commitment. Well, next thing you know, you're moving forward. Now, one of the questions Ryan asked earlier was, what are some ways that we mitigate risk, right? And so, you know, for the seller that I'm talking to that says, hey, Court, really concerned about being homeless, you know, I don't know, you know, what we're going to do. I don't want to sell right now because there's no inventory. So here's what I'm going to say to this person. You know what, Ryan? I agree. There is some risk out there right now, but only for agents that don't know what they're doing and only for families that haven't chosen somebody that knows how to solve this problem. So, guys, here, I've just elevated my game. Okay. Like, I'm literally telling this person that they're in safe hands. Okay. And I'm telling them that I got the answer. Now, you might sound like, hey, Corp, maybe that sounds like you're bragging a little bit. I'm okay with it. It works for me. Okay. That's the way I sound. Maybe you got a different way of spinning it. But I want this person to know that I understand the market and I've got their back. They can trust me. Follow along. I got your roadmap. Okay. That's what I want them to hear. So I'm going to say to them, hey, Ryan, you know what? Thanks for saying that. And I understand that. And if you weren't working with somebody that had a roadmap for you, yeah, maybe that would be a concern. But here's what we're going to do. Okay. First things first, Ryan, I just want to have a sense of where you want to live in general terms. I don't want you to buy anything. I'd like to just take you and your partner out for an afternoon, look at 3, 4, maybe 5 houses. Two, you pick, two, I pick. And, you know, one of us maybe gets a third, depending on how things go, just for my sake. Because here's what I'm going to do, Ryan. I'm going to do a bunch of off-market work, bunch of cold calling, talking to agents, looking at expired listings. I'm going to be doing a bunch of hustling to find out some opportunities that might work for you as well. Could include sending out mailers, could involve cold calling neighborhoods. There's a ton of stuff that we can do to find off-market listings. But listen, that's not even the solution. That's just something that I would do for you because you're a valued client. And I want to make sure that you get the best house. Okay. So if we can just go look at 3, 4, 5 houses together, that'll give me a great idea of exactly what we're looking for. My only request, Ryan, would be this. Would you be willing to be like 100% honest with me about the feedback on these properties? Like, would you tell me like, Court, this is garbage. I can't believe that we're even here. I don't even want to go in this house. Like, would you be willing to kind of like give me that kind of feedback? Would that be okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like guys, I get that I'm a little bit over the top, right? So it's obviously going to be more measured, right? This is just for impact. I don't want you sleeping during a coaching call, okay? So you're gonna, be a normal human, not like a caricature like I'm being right now, but you get the point. The point is this, is that I want them to understand that I have a plan, and the plan is for us to go look at some properties and to not buy one. I'm just taking the energy out of it. I'm not taking them out here to get them stoked, to get them wired up to go buy. They need to know that that's not the intention here. It's so that I can have a picture of what their house is because I've got this other solution that's going to give them comfort and safety, which is I'm going to hustle more than any other agent ever has and go find them off-market stuff if I need to, including cold calling, door knocking, dropping flyers, whatever it takes. And I will do that if I need to, but I won't. Okay. It's true. But I want them to know that I will. It's in my buyer agency agreement that I'll get down to that business if I have to. For sure it is. I want them to know that that's part of my offering. Okay. More value, right? They haven't heard this before, right? No, they haven't. So do you think that my conversion goes up? For sure it does. Why? Because they've never heard a realtor talk like this before. Why? Because nobody approaches this stuff with the discipline, right? That I have, the system that I have, just the way of communicating the same old shit that everybody would be willing to do but fails to communicate it consistently. Okay. And all I've done over the year, guys, in selling all these properties and all the coaching is just like created a framework that I lean against 100% all the time. Whether you're a friend, whether you're a stranger, whether you're my sister, my mother, my boyfriend or girlfriend, doesn't matter. Okay. You're getting the same damn process because I don't trust myself with variables. I trust what works consistently. And that's it. People need to hear that you're a hustler and they want to know that you'll do whatever it takes to ensure what? To ensure that you, the home seller, are not left fucking homeless. Big concern, right? So, first thing we're going to do, Ryan, is do that. After that, Ryan, what we'll do is we'll get together and just have a conversation about your property. I know that, you're not thinking about doing anything next year, but at very least, it'd be good for you to get a sense for what the property's worth. We can talk about getting it on the market. I know that you're concerned about being homeless, but I got to guarantee that that's not going to happen. Ryan, the 4,000 properties that we've sold, we have yet to make somebody homeless. And we have yet to have somebody so much as have more than a week or two overlap where they got to stay with a friend. And that would be an extreme circumstance where they just loved the house that they had to move into. And it was very complex. In most cases, we're actually doing the reverse, where we're getting like a week to 2 weeks of overlap where they're paying just interest on both properties and they just get to move a nice, easy vehicle, move back and forth with boxes for a few days, maybe bring a moving company in 1 or 2 days. Very simple. That's what we want for you. But here's how we do it, Ryan. And it's not rocket science. And frankly, Ryan, I don't know why more realtors aren't using this tool or even talking about it. But here's the thing. So once we get our property on the market, once we get a sense that we're being well received and our price is right, which I'm sure it will be, we're going to start taking our showings more seriously. Now we're just going to kind of have a rolling tally of the 1 or 2, maybe even 3 properties that we would like to buy and move into as we're rolling through the process. The challenge with that, Ryan, I want you to expect it, is that some of these are going to get sold. Okay. We might be on the market a week and maybe your favorite one sells day one. Well, there'll be another one coming. We're just going to keep our eye on what's happening. Okay. And here's what we're going to do. When we see the one that we have to have, we'll offer on it. Okay. And we'll put a seller's condition in there, just saying, hey, listen, this is subject to, my house selling. If there's not going to be a bunch of competing offers on this property, we might be able to tie it up for an extra week. Maybe I lower my price over here, get my property sold super quick. The other potential, friends, is just to write it into a buyer's condition, just a financing condition. Maybe make that 2 weeks long. Go over here, take a price reduction on their house if they're super excited to get it sold. Alternatively, here's what we can do, guys. Anytime we get an offer on our place, if we haven't yet found something, Just put a seller's condition in it. Super easy, right? So the buyer comes on our property, right? The listing. Okay, we've got it listed now. They're all stoked. We haven't found anything out here, which is sometimes the challenge. Okay, no worries. Haven't found anything out here, right? Nothing's coming up. We're concerned. It's been 2 weeks, been 3 weeks, nothing's there. Boom, we get an offer on our place. Oh shit, what do we do? Hey, this is a super exciting time, guys. Here's what we're gonna do. Negotiate a great deal, and then at the end, we're gonna slide in a seller's condition that says, this offer, your offer, thanks for it, but it's also subject to a seller's condition now, which is subject to us finding satisfactory housing. Okay. And we're going to do that in the next week. They've got a 2 week condition. Their 2 week condition is going to take 2 weeks to get financing. They're not going to bother with their property inspection until probably day 10, right? Most people wait, towards the tail end of that. So I'm going to give myself the front side of that before they burn that $500 or $600 on their property inspection to find a house. Okay. So I'm telling my seller, hey, listen, we're going to have, 5, 7, maybe 10 days to go out there and find a house. I know that we haven't seen anything yet, but hey, maybe with this little bit of extra motivation and the fact that we got a great price on your property, maybe we're starting to see some different options. So let's go out and look a little bit more deeply. Guys, here's what happens. 9 times out of 10, here's the way it goes. You've now just given that person a roadmap for how they can list their house and not be homeless. So of course, like we're actively in the process now. You're going to explain this preemptively to show them that this is how it works. Okay. So you can just frame that story any way you like. But the point is that once this person has an offer on their house, do you think that other properties in the marketplace start to look a little bit better to them? Yeah. Yeah, they do. They start to look a lot more like home. They start to look a lot more exciting, a lot more appealing, right? Why? Because they're already starting to part ways with their house over here. Emotionally, they're detaching from it because they got the offer on it now. They got the price that they wanted, right? We've got a seller's offer in place, seller's condition rather in place. So I'm not at risk of being homeless. And now with that pressure dissipated, hey man, I can start to see that, you know what, things are looking pretty bright over here. In fact, I really like property 123 Main Street. Can we make an offer on that? Shit, yeah, we can. Right.
More
So,
time, sorry, Court, more times than not, when I'm guiding clients through this process, one of two things happen. When I sit down and present them an offer for their property that's more than they probably could ever have imagined, all of a sudden, alternative living situations come out of the woodwork.
right.
It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Or number two, they all of a sudden send me an address totally out of left field that's not even close to what they were shopping for, and they buy it.
Mhm.
Things change when new information is given to clients. And you can't get to that point unless you're providing safety and solutions up until that time.
I love this, Ryan. And so that's probably the most critical piece. So thanks for sharing that. And that's just like the value of being coached by a guy like Ryan who's actively in production talking to people. Okay. It's that specific detail is that when you create safety for people and take the pressure out of it, then you have the opportunity to solve the real world problem that comes up with real world solutions like he's just given you. But you didn't get to do that unless you could communicate safety to them. Hey, listen, you know what? Here's what other people have done. And by the way, guys, the framework for doing that, if you haven't been paying attention to our other coaching sessions, is as follows: who, what, when, where, how. Tell me more about, help me understand, followed by the triangle of proximity. You, the client you're speaking to, using a story of somebody else's success that you've created or one of your colleagues has created or one that you've made up. If you have to, whatever it takes, use the triangle of proximity to tell a story of somebody else having success in this exact same scenario, and then ask the question, so why don't we do this? And the solution is around that. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have the conversation? Why don't we go to your house and meet? Why don't we go look at some properties? Why don't we? Why don't we? Why don't we? The answer is never a good one. And yes, we should. Yeah.
Love that. Love
So
that.
that's what Ryan's doing. That's why it's working. And that's why this dude is selling so much real estate. He's got the framework. He's preemptively solving these problems that he knows that people have because he's asking these questions. He's done the 5-part framework where he's solved the problem, constructed a way for people to go through it, and then gone for the close right after it. But the close is not, let's list your property. The close is, hey, why don't we have a conversation about that?
And it's crazy how things change. Before we wind up, I know we got a jet in a couple of minutes here, but literally 4 or 5 years ago, I would have to walk sellers through why they need to take a low offer right away right? Because the alternative solution is sitting on market forever and taking less later on. Now it's the opposite, right? I have to talk to my buyers about like, hey guys, if we don't put this together, this is what we are going to be faced with moving forward, right? So just be aware, guys, like these frameworks are the same. It's just different words, different scenarios. And that's what I love about this. It's like, hey,
Yep.
as we shift with the market, we just need to tell different stories. It's going to apply to different people, buyers, sellers, anywhere in between, right? So it's kind of rinse and repeat.
The only thing that changes is that third part, the research and the solution through those shark infested waters. And if you come to these sessions, we'll always talk you through them. If you don't have answers for what you need specifically that's going on in your market, jump over to the Real Estate Growth Community private Facebook group and ask a question in there, and we can certainly help you there. Or let us know if there's something else that you want us to talk about on these weekly webinars, and we can cover it off for you there as well. Ryan, I want to ask you this question. If somebody was really inspired and liked what you had to say today, wanted to get a little bit more time with you, where could they go just to chat with you?
Anywhere on social, it's just Ryan.Weary on Instagram, Ryan Weary on Facebook. Just message me. It's always me handling my social stuff. And love to give you guys even 30, 45 minutes of my time and just figure out how it can help. It's funny, the coaching side of things isn't as different as helping buyers and sellers. It's a discovery process, right? It's asking
Mhm.
good questions and providing solutions.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
hope
Some
that
paid, some free. So if you need a hand, friends, reach out. Okay.
yeah, hope that was useful, guys, and we'll see you next week. Take good
Yep.
care.